integrity, even in the face of authority. And as Mahatma Gandhi said, and as Mahatma Gandhi, a champion of constructive disobedience, said, the difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. Our session today will delve into this important theme, exploring its nuances and its impact. We are deeply honored to welcome Major General Anil Kumar Sengar, a true embodiment of leadership and conscience. A decorated army veteran, General Sengar's career is a testament to excellence. He is a recipient of the Sword of Honor and Gold Medal from the Indian Military Academy. He was awarded the Medal of Honor, Silver Degree by the Government of Lebanon during his service as Defense Attaché. Decorated for combat leadership with the Yudh Seva Medal, he is revered as a soldier of conscience, leaving a legacy that inspires generations. Beyond his military achievements, General Sengar is a passionate motivational speaker and an author of 9 books. Dedicated to sharing his life experiences and inspiring others, he has pledged to donate his organs, a final act of selfless giving. Joining General Sengar in this important discussion is Ranjan Pal, an adventurer in both his professional and personal life, with a rich and diverse background spanning investment banking and education. He now passionately pursues his love of travel and travel writing. His work appears in prestigious publications like Condé Nast Traveler and National Geographic Traveler. Ranjan believes, much like Henry Miller, that one's destination is never a place but a new way of seeing things. He brings a unique perspective to this conversation, exploring the themes of self-discovery and personal growth. As we explore the power of constructive disobedience, we are reminded that true leadership requires not just obedience, but also the courage to question and the wisdom to act according to one's conscience. I now request the speakers to begin the session.
Thank you very much. It's a little bit of a quandary for me because, Anil and I only just met like literally about 4 or 5 days ago, and I only got a chance to take a look at his book over the last couple of days. So you'll excuse me. All faults are mine. I'm the one who's constructively being disobedient. Anil is the expert, but I'll do the best possible job I can on the question that I've come up with. I think Paritosh stole my thunder. I was going to read from the book jacket back, but I'll add a few of my comments. So Anil Sengar retired in 2016 as Major General from the Indian Army, having served his full term. So the first question I had actually when I read his book was, how did a guy like this not get fired from the army? Somebody like the army, which is such a strict chain of command, and here's a man who's obviously clearly thinking man soldier, but very much his own man, very much his own views, very much, if he disagreed, he disagreed and he let you know it. He didn't try to sort of sugarcoat his language or his terms, and yet he survived and actually prospered and was very successful. I mean, mentioned the Sword of Honor, mentioned the other awards, the gold medal, etc. And I think that's interesting because it does show that there is, within the military at least, some sense of meritocracy, some sense of allowing people to speak their own mind. And I'm sure that Anil will refer to that at all. I think that was very encouraging. The other thing I would say is that, since his retirement, I think he's found his true calling. He's become a prolific author on leadership and self-development. And this book is actually his eighth in 8 years, So I mean, that's pretty amazing. I haven't even written one, so now I have to sit with him and get some gyan as to how does one get this kind of stimulation. But this book is on maverick leadership, embracing the power of constructive disobedience. So there's a lot of conflict right there and then. I mean, how do you get into constructive disobedience and so on? But we let we'll let Anil kind of summarize the book, and as a concept in a bit, and then I'll get to the questions. But I do want to just mention the one other thing that I noticed about him is his very unconventional hairstyle, which would never have been permitted in the military. And this is what you would call positive defiance, and it's gives him the look of a messiah, which he certainly is. So now I'll just hand it over to you, Anil, to just speak briefly about the concept and the book, and then we'll get into the questions.
Thank you so much, Ranjan. He said this is the Messiah look. Probably the greatest Messiah of his time, Jesus Christ, became famous and useful to humanity only after he was hanged and he was dead and buried. So I guess you'll also realize the importance of constructive disobedience after I'm dead and gone. Anybody who said that the earth was round first time, they hanged him because that was a new thought. So constructive disobedience, really, what is this book about? Firstly, as I said, you look at me, or let me start with a question from you. How many of you are married here? Well, all right. One gentleman is taking too long. All right, you can take up to 5 minutes is allowed for this answer. And out of all those of you who are married, how many of you have longer hair than your wife? Anyone? Definitely not me. All right, you see, in this gathering, or wherever I go, I'm the only one who has hair longer than his wife. Right? And I'm still alive. And so his question is that how did I survive in the army is really a mystery. I also don't know. But what I'm telling you is that wherever I go, I'm a minority. I'm a minority here, and in my thought process, I'm a minority. So this book, and let me just share with you, when I discuss this idea with some people, and I discussed this idea with some lieutenant generals, they just couldn't believe it that I was writing a book on disobedience. They said there's no scope for disobedience anywhere, and least of all in the military. So my question to them was, did you ever not get an order which was worth contesting, that you obeyed every order in your life? And in this whole process of discussion, I lost 2 friends. They stopped talking to me. So you know how difficult it was? What is this book about? 3,600 years of India's recorded history, of not India, the world's recorded history, the world has been at war for 93% of the time. America, since its independence, has been at peace only for 8% of its existence. Since 1816, there's not been a place that the world has not been at war. And those of you who attended Mr. M.J. Akbar's session in the afternoon, what did he say? He said the old men decide when to fight and the young men die. Right? The world is being led by people who are not responsible for their actions. 300 years ago, Axel Constantina, he was the regent to the Queen of Sweden. He told his son, before he was dying, at the time he was dying, that son, you better know with how little wisdom the world is governed. And you please tell me, has anything changed in 300 years? So the concept of the book is that there is a concept of folly and there is a concept of stupidity. That stupid people exist everywhere and people continue to make mistakes whose consequences are known. Well, in time, they were known in between. There were better options available, but those few people did what they wanted to do, and in the end, causing tyranny to humanity. So, next slide, please. The tyranny that the humanity has suffered since time immemorial is not because of disobedience. It's because of too much obedience and too quietly. India was ruled by the Britishers for 200 years because of too much obedience by 550 odd princely states. It was the disobedience of one man, Mangal Pandey, which actually started the whole process of India's independence, which came a century later. Rosa Parks was that woman in 1955 whose defiance to leave the seat for a white American actually set the ball rolling for the elimination of racial discrimination in America. So that is the concept. During my service in the army, I have seen that happening, that you will get orders which, if you obey, will lead to tyranny of some people or effect on your mission, men, and organization. And that concept is across services and professions. Military is the best profession that you can see. It's true in politics, it's true in corporate, it's true in politico-military relations. So all these aspects are covered. And this is a very difficult actually decision to actually disobey an order. But that's a decision you got to take. But I'll draw your attention to the title of this book. You see, we are used to a certain templated thinking, certain stereotype. So a lot of people in this title of the book, when they read, they forget that before the word disobedience is a word constructive. So I'm not talking of disobedience for rebellion. There is a word which is prefixing disobedience, which is constructive. And that is what you got to understand. So Ranjan, that should be enough, I think.
Thank you so much, Anil. So, I also just want to point out that I'm a very unusual discussant for this, because you've got all of Anil's batchmates over there, lined up over there. And I asked them all at dinner yesterday, why wasn't one of them up here who could be all these three guys over there? And there they are in the sort of standing there in the waiting to enjoy the fun, because they said, no, we want a civilian, we want someone who doesn't know him at all, who doesn't have anything to do with the military, and probably doesn't even understand the concept to ask him questions. So he and I talked on the phone, and we did a video call and all, and now, of course, I have a better understanding, so we'll do the best job possible, and I hope you guys will enjoy. But let me just start with the question of, this question of constructive disobedience, right? So, you mentioned that a lot of military commanders, that you lost friendships, the military commanders at your level, higher levels, etc., who considered, were considerably concerned about this. And Anil, kya kar raha hai yaar? What are you doing here? Why don't you just retire and quietly, play golf or something? Huh? So, what is it inside you that really made you feel like you had to write this book?
It was the two parts. One is my personal experiences, one-to-one. Other is experiences where I was present because it happened in my battalion. And third is what I read. And I came to a conclusion that this any organization will have people who will take decisions which are harmful to the mission, men of the organization. And unless somebody actually takes up those decisions, policies, or orders that are issued, and not with the purpose of confronting your superior, but with the purpose of making sure that those decisions don't turn disastrous for your organization, somebody had to do it. Now the issue is, within the army, disobeying a political civil order is easy actually. You can manipulate that order and do something and not do the entire thing. But in the army, if you disobey an order, it is treason. So it's a very difficult choice, and I've taken that choice repeatedly, believe me. But I'm still here, right, at this rank. And there are certain caveats that we'll discuss later. So I felt that if you really want to serve any organization, you will have to speak up against those directives, policies, or decisions which are harmful to the organization. And the philosophy that I'm propagating is that constructive disobedience is part of leadership trait at the higher level. And why am I saying that it is part of leadership trait? What is leadership? Three pillars of leadership is character, competence, and courage. What does courage mean for leadership? It means giving a tough feedback to superiors when it is required, standing for your conviction, standing for something and standing up to something, and then having the courage to do the harder right rather than the easier wrong. And that was the thought process. It has always been a part of me to question what is actually not in the interest of the organization. And I had so many experiences, and from what I read in the non-military arena, I felt I had to write about this. People may not realize its value now, but people have started realizing its value already from when I talk to the people.
So, my evaluation after speaking to you and reading the book is a very powerful idea, but also a very simple one, which is that should you evaluate orders or instructions from, when you evaluate your orders or instructions from your superiors on various parameters, and mention lawfulness, number one, consequences and your own belief and conscience, number two, and not to follow them blindly, right?
Yeah.
So, but again, the same question comes up to me, which is like, again, I'm speaking as a civilian, and I'm just looking at the military from the outside. That isn't this a recipe for total chaos in a controlled military setting? I mean, how can you go against the chain of command, and your commanding officer tells you to do something, whatever it might orders you in battle, to go and take that post or something. How can you question that? Because if you do that, doesn't it lead to total chaos?
This is a choice that a commander makes, that you may follow an order. It could actually lead to a greater chaos if it is a disastrous order. But if you were to question that order and get the anomalies sorted out, then you find that at the end of the day, certain orders which otherwise could be fatal and could lead to disaster of the organization. And as we discuss along over the next half an hour, you'll realize what I am saying, that it is not really creating chaos. A well considered constructive disobedience against an order which is passed by the test of your character, competence, and conscience actually prevents that chaos. And I'm not talking of disobedience where somebody says, I'll not give you a cup of tea in a ceramic cup, I'll give you in a styrofoam cup, and I start disobeying, something like that. No. The issues that I'm talking about are very big, very large, and certain examples that we'll deal with, you'll understand what I'm saying. So constructive disobedience is actually, contrary to Ranjan, what you're saying is not creating chaos, it is preventing chaos in the long run, provided you pick up the issue correctly, evaluate it correctly. Right?
Okay, so it's like basically taking the right decision to correct a wrong decision.
Yeah, making your superior have a relook at the decision that is taken, which is supported by facts and logic.
Right. So, the moving on, just thinking about loyalty and obedience within the military, and that's always seen as a great virtue, complete loyalty and obedience. But you draw a distinction between dog loyalty and human loyalty, and I'd like you to explain that a bit more. How does this affect your understanding of these commonly used terms in a military context?
Right. I think the most misunderstood term is the word loyalty. Right? Loyalty to commander, loyalty to this, loyalty to that. What exactly is loyalty? What are you talking about? Right? Loyalty, dog, see, look at dog. Dawood Ibrahim, I'm sure, must be having dogs. Big criminals in India must be having dogs. The dog is loyal to Dawood Ibrahim because he feeds him food. The dog does not know who Dawood Ibrahim is. His loyalty is based on the food that he gets from that man. The man is different from a dog because he's got brains, right? He's supposed to think. And therefore, a man's loyalty to his superior is not based on what the superior is. It is based on his character, his competence, and his courage. And I'll tell you what, there are 4 ex-NDAs sitting here, me and them. There's a beautiful NDA prayer. And I want you to read this. Just please go ahead. Next. Next. Yeah. This is NDA prayer. I want you to read this first. Right, you would have read it. Here, do you see Anyway, this is the prayer of the National Defense Academy, and all of us, every day morning, 5 o'clock, we started the day with this. I actually never paid attention to this then because, India life is very different. You somehow surviving day to day. When I was writing this book, I went over this. Do you find a word of loyalty to your superior here? He doesn't talk of loyalty to his superior. He talks of loyalty to subordinates. Right? So, what loyalty are we talking about? He's talking, if I can just read it here, if I can come here and read, loyalty to the men we command. Somebody is below you. Courage which is born of the love of what is noble, which knows no compromise or retreat when truth and right are in peril. Right? Opportunity of service to thee, to our country, and the men we lead. In this entire NDA prayer, which we repeat every day, 4:45 in the morning for 3 years, there is no talk of loyalty to your superior. But there is talk of loyalty to the men you command. Right? Therefore, the whole concept of loyalty to your superior has to be based on certain things. He's got to earn that loyalty from you. It's not a dog that you throw me a piece of bread and be loyal to you. So that is what, we are talking about.
Right. Of course, the book is based entirely on your personal experiences started from that point within the military, in terms of. So I would really like you to narrate just 2 incidents, where as a military commander, you walked the walk and you took this principle of constructive disobedience to your commanding officer and disagreed with the order. And also, importantly, what are the consequences that you face? Just 2 incidents.
All right. The army is one place where your career is hanging by the thread. You serve 30 years, 20 years can have great annual confidential report, you get one bad one, and that's the end of your story, right? Because unlike the civil services where everybody reaches a joint secretary rank, 60% of the officers, or 65% of the officers miss the first promotion board from lieutenant colonel to colonel at the age of 33 years. So in the army, when you disobey, it's actually a great risk that you are taking to end your career. Now, as for me, you all know that there was an attack on the parliament in 2000, usse pehle, before Oprakram, December 2001, right? 2001. And the army got mobilized. So we were the whole tri-service, 3 services were deployed. My battalion is a very typical battalion, right? So all the 3 companies are deployed over about 140 kilometers. So it's a tough job for a commanding officer. And to cut the long story short, I was taken out of my battalion and put in the divisional headquarters, right? I represented it against it, but the divisional commander, I was a colonel, division commander was a major general. He refused to listen to me. He said, you find your time to command your battalion, but this is what you do in div headquarters. After a few days, my company commander gave me a call. He said, sir, I've been tasked to take over the Brigade Surveillance Center. Now, Brigade Surveillance Center is one entity in Brigade Headquarters. So I said, who's told you this? He said, sir, my brigade commander. So I told that officer, his name was Major Narendra Pal, to disobey that order. And you can tell your commander to speak to me. So his commander spoke to me. He says, your company commander is disobeying my orders. I said, sir, he is not disobeying your orders, he is obeying my orders. He said, no, but these are division commander's orders. I said, that's a news to me. And I said, nobody can take away my company commander from me unless I, as a commanding officer, approve of that. So he says, what will you do? I said, give me 1 day, I'll represent against it. So I spoke to the divisional commander in a gathering like this, early morning conference. He said, no, I don't care. He will take over. I said, sir, I am here away from my battalion. You're taking my battalions deployed over 150 kilometers. Each company has 50 kilometers frontage. You take away this man also. Who's going to be held responsible? He said, no, you find a way. So the matter was over. I went, wrote a letter to him, and I just refused. I said that you have taken away all my command elements from the unit. I sit here most of the time in the div headquarters. You're taking away my company commanders. Under the circumstances, I regret my inability to perform the task that you've given me. Or there are more other things. Eventually, to cut the long story short, he got this letter, and he changed his order, part of it, you know. He changed his order, part of it, but he didn't relieve me from there. So the point is, I had to take a call, you know. I had to take a call, and you believe me, my annual confidential report was with the GOC that time. He had to write my report. In the army, you get one high average report, that's the end of your career. And I had a good career, like, you know, I had a real good career till that point of time. And he changed his order, but he did not relieve me from there. So that is one constructive disobedience, but you have to be prepared to pay the price. And I did pay the price for it, and my officers paid. None of my company commanders actually got promoted from major to lieutenant colonel because that anger and ire on me was taken out on me and on my company commanders as well. So that is one incident. And second incident is when a unit was told to do certain thing on Siachen Glacier and do it on a certain day because that day was the birthday of a divisional commander. And that execution of that order would have cost us lives then and forever after. And my commanding officer of the time said, sir, when you make these plans sitting in div quarters in Leh, you don't understand the reality. You come with me on ground and see it. You spend a day with me, look at the place, and then if you tell me from there, we'll do it. So, you know, this constructive disobedience saves lives, you know, and it saves national honors. I've just given you two short examples. Right? Yeah.
Thank you for that. So, reading the rest of the book, you know, the way I see it, that there's, you know, the constructive disobedience in a pure military context where there's a difference of opinion, you know, let's say you are constructively disobeying your superior officer. And then there are examples where within the military as a whole disagrees with, in a democratic setup, with the civilian authority, right? The civilian authority is the supreme commander, and, you know, the military is supposed to be subservient to them or followed. So I would like you to, let's start with the military, right? That within the military context, and let's take one international and one domestic example. So I was very interested in reading about the My Lai massacre in 1968, where a US Army company, for no good rhyme or reason, completely massacred and raped 500 old men, women, and children. It was clearly one of the most horrible things to have happened during the Vietnam War, completely unconscionable, right? This is a cold-blooded murder of innocent civilians, and it was completely covered up by the hierarchy, up and down, right? Then there was an investigation, and 3 junior level officers during the action committed an act of constructive disobedience, which is still remembered for its bravery and its principled stand. Can you just go into that a little bit more in detail?
You know, this is a story of Vietnam War. When America, after the French in 50s, the America landed up in Vietnam fighting. At that point of time, Vietnam was divided north and south. North Vietnam was communist and supported by China. South was democratic, which was earlier French colony. Now, what had happened here was that the Americans were losing soldiers, and they didn't know how they were getting killed. You know, one ID going up here, something going up, something there. You didn't see a soldier, but you keep losing men. So they decided that there's a village called My Lai, and they actually built up a narrative that a Vietnamese battalion is there. Actually, it was not there. They're simply simple villagers, women folk, old people there who used to go out morning to their fields. And this false information was given to the soldiers. They attacked, killed 500 men, women, and old women and children, torched their villages. Now there was one helicopter pilot, and the commander of that pilot was a chap called Hugh Thompson, you know, a warrant officer. He was not even an officer, he was one grade lower. So when he saw that happening from the air, he landed his helicopter right there. And he asked those other two fellows, stand here, stop these Americans from shooting these villages. He told these guys, if you shoot back, shoot at the civilians, I'll shoot you. He, of course, is a pilot, doesn't have a big weapon, he has a pistol. Then he went and actually protected those guys, he evacuated those guys, and at least in that part of the village, the killing stopped, but totally 500 people were lost. After that, the American authorities actually covered it up for next couple of years. For next 2 years, America didn't know that it had happened. And they tasked this pilot time and again on a mission, hoping that he will crash or he'll get shot and get killed. The pilot who had actually stood between the Vietnamese and the American soldiers, preventing them. A big court of inquiry was done, and there was one officer by the name of Lieutenant Calley. He had killed 100 Vietnamese. He was in jail for 4 months, and then he was, for 2 years or so, he was in house arrest. And all of those people, nobody was punished. Nobody was punished. The case went to the whole America. When they got to know, the nation was up in arms. There was huge protests all over America. And President Nixon also gave some silly excuse, and nothing was done. But 50 years later, this 3 people who had stood between the Vietnamese and the marauding American soldiers who were killing them, they were awarded the highest gallantry, non-operational gallantry medal for their moral courage. Now the issue is, it took 50 years, and the commander who was there at that point of time hoped that this guy will crash and die somewhere. The man who had done actually the right thing. The entire court of inquiry took place. It was a whitewash. Nobody was punished. The matter was right up to the president. But 50 years later, somebody realized that these people deserve to be, decorated for their valor, and they were decorated by the highest gallantry award at the time, other than in combat. So this is the story of My Lai massacre. 3 men disobeying the entire hierarchy of the military, and their recognition came almost 40, 50 years later. Right? That's the instance.
It's moving a little closer to home, and this is another example which I found fascinating, where you talk about the Second Indochina War in 1967. And it's very fascinating because 2 military commanders were given the same order,
Right.
but they took opposite decisions.
Yes.
One of them followed the lawful order. The order was lawful, but they ordered it, he followed it to the letter and withdrew from the Jelep La Pass, which is on the Sikkim border, and gave it to the Chinese, basically, without a shot being fired. Another commander, I think
General Sagat Singh.
Sarat Singh, very famous, actively committed an act of disobedience by disobeying that same lawful order, and which led to India retaining possession of that very strategic and important Nathula Pass, but at the cost, of course, of about 100 men.
Yeah.
And so I thought that very, very interesting that 2 commanders took 2 completely different calls. And I mean, would you like to just explain that a little bit more?
Yeah, please go ahead on this slide. Put that little map there. Yeah. Okay, gentlemen, the officer that you see here is then Major General Sagat Singh. He was the commander of 17 Division. And of course, later he became Lieutenant General, and he was a corps commander in Bangladesh. Go ahead. You see this map, and you see down here, this is Nathula Pass, and a little below there is Jalapla Pass. Up there is 17th Infantry Division. This is 27th Infantry Division. That is 2 years before that, the India-Pakistan war was carrying on in 1965. And Chinese tried to build that pressure on that part on India when India was fighting Pakistan in 1965. Anyway, the war finished and the tension here built up opposite Nathula and Jalapla. And there was a lot of discussion in the corps headquarters of what to do. So General Sagat Singh was always of the opinion that you cannot leave this pass. But based on the experience of 1962, when unfortunately, because the politician authority of the time actually shoved us into the 62 war without preparation, properly equipping, so we were actually really routed in 1962. And the same fear psychosis actually existed at that time. And they wanted to withdraw, and hold defenses if China attacked further back. General Sagat Singh, who was the GOC of 17th Infantry Division, under whose command the Nathola Pass was there, he found a lot of opposition in the hierarchy. But finally they agreed that, okay, we will stick to our positions and see what happens. But when the actually tension built up, they asked him to withdraw. He simply refused to withdraw. He left his headquarters. Fortunately, there were no mobile phones that time, so you couldn't actually get in touch with him. And there was a big battle there. India lost 89 soldiers killed, about 150 odd, 200 odd injured, and Chinese 600 killed, and Chinese about 400 odd killed and 600 injured, and Chinese actually then withdrew. Now, finally, things were sorted out and they came back to their own position. But what happened in the other part, Jalepla? Jalepla was another formation, another divisional commander. He obeyed that order and he withdrew. The moment he withdrew, Chinese came and quietly occupied Jalepla without firing a shot. Without firing a shot. Then in General Sagat Singh's division of 17 Div, they tried the same thing in a place called Chola. Now, eventually, this became a big issue, and it was a matter that was discussed in Parliament. General Sagat Singh actually disobeyed that order. He was told that fall back. He says there's no way that you can leave this place. And the other GOC, without contesting, actually left that place, and without firing a shot, Chinese occupied that Jalepla Pass. Today, this pass is with you. Today, this pass is with you, and a whole lot of things happened in Nathola. You're aware of that. A lot of people may have visited. And this man was removed. There was huge hangama in Parliament, and he was sent on a very, some sidey posting, and the people thought his career was over. Fortunately, some sense prevailed somewhere. He was promoted to Lieutenant General and he created history again in Bangladesh war. So this is a case of what this book is all about. Constructive disobedience. That you got to take a chance. The problem with constructive disobedience is that at that point of time, you cannot be sure whether I'll be proved right or somebody else will be proved right. It is your conviction. It's quite possible that you would have lost 300 men and you may have lost Nathola Pass. Very much possible. And then those people who were telling him to get back, they would have actually roasted him alive. So that's a call that you take as a commander based on the confidence in yourself, on the confidence on the men that you command, how good they are and how much they will stick to what you're telling them to do. So this is that story of constructive disobedience, and country has to be grateful to him that Nathola Pass today is there with you and Jalepla Pass is not there with you. Right?
So now we are at a point where we have to decide on an act of constructive disobedience or not. Right. I've been ordered by Paritosh, commanding officer, that we've got exactly 5 minutes left, and therefore we have to cut back. We had 4 or 5 questions, and we've got I think we'll have to cut back to 2. Right. Otherwise, we can do constructively disobey and carry on for another 15 minutes. We'll see what he does.
Absolutely. He's got something hanging around his neck. That makes it easy. You hang you upside down.
That's it. So
no, sorry, that's just the right side.
So let's just do 2 more questions, right?
All right.
Okay. So one is that, this business of constructive disobedience at the officer level, what about at the rank and file level? Like someone who's, lower down the thing, if they decide to, let's say, you know what, aap jaane, bol rahe mere ko charge karo, or, take that post, and you're saying, and the guy says, no, I won't do it for whatever reason, not because of courage or anything, but says that, I don't think we can capture it. What about in that situation? Have any of your subordinates directly defied any of your orders?
Actually, army is such a beautiful place, I can tell you. There's no better place to serve anywhere than the army. If you as a leader of their men are are the first men leading, take it from me, even the most coward of them will follow you. But if you stand behind this lectern and tell them to go and charge that place, nobody's going to go, right? So, a man will never actually do that, as long as you set example by personal example. And in the Indian military, the officers lead by personal example. They never ask your men to go ahead. They always say, follow me. The dictum of the Indian military is, follow me. That means the officer leads by front. However, after all, some people can get scared, right? People can get scared in intense fire and extremely difficult situations. And there may be occasions that some soldier might actually back out, for a time being. But invariably what will happen is that when he finds that his other comrades are moving forward, he'll get up and he'll join you. That is the custom of military, that is the culture of the military, you know. So it would happen sometimes. Some people will actually back out, some people could actually, that happen, but self-realization comes and most of them will actually join up on their own.
Okay, and then the final question, you mentioned the price you pay, you know, when you exercise constructive disobedience as an officer. How does a junior officer stand up for whatever he believes? And because, you know, they've got their family, they've got their career, they're just starting out. Their tendency is, yeah, let's not rock the boat because I've got other bigger things to think about, you know. How would you advise someone who really wants to do the right thing, but then on the other hand, he's got all these other things to, you know, his career, and how would you say you can not damage your career, but you can still do the right thing?
You know, you'll find some people who will push their careers at the cost of organizational interest. And if I say that it doesn't happen in the military, that would be wrong. But when we come to the issue of life and blood, I mean, it's questions of fighting out an enemy, when it's question of fighting terrorists in J&K or in the Northeast, it is rare that anybody backs out. Believe me, it is rare that anybody backs out because for a soldier, it's a matter of honor. No.
Well, thank you so much for that. I think what we'll do now is we'll open it up to questions from the audience. We do have one quiz question, which I think is a very interesting one that we'll have Anil talk about. But if there are any questions from the audience, can we please have them now? Yes, sir. Please go ahead. Please identify yourself.
My name is A. Mandal. I have this question. Is this book and whatever discussion we had...
Just hold the mic a little closer.
Entirely in the context of military? The moment you write a book, it's in the general sense. And in there, is there a conflict between anarchy or indiscipline and this constructive disobedience? That is my question.
Okay, this book is not about military alone, you know. It has an entire chapter on corporate. It has a chapter on some religious aspect. It has a civil-military relationship equation. So it is actually covering a vast kind of canvas of careers and fields. So the second part of your question was that if you are doing this, what are you not doing?
Is there in the general sense, what is the difference between anarchy and discipline and constructive?
Yeah.
There's a very fine line to walk, and who gets to decide that fine line?
Right, that question is very good, you know, anarchy and indiscipline. So when we are talking of constructive disobedience, it is not that I simply refuse to obey an order, right? I discuss it out with my superior. He may have given a certain order. He has a conviction. I have a conviction. And I try and convince him, right? Either I'm able to convince him or he's able to convince me. So if I can convince him, I'll follow his order. If he convinces me, I'll follow my order. In the worst case, if he does not agree with me, there may be, you know, times when I can actually say, sorry, sir, I won't do that. You can find somebody else to do it, right? So it's really a matter of a debate. And it's not, I'm not refusing to do a thing. I'm trying to tell him that there is a better way of doing what you're asking me to do, which will be more economical in cost, time, and every other way, right?
Any other questions? You're not allowed to ask a question.
No, I'm not asking a question. I'll just bring out 2 points, pardon and indulge in me. One is the difference at the stage of dissent. Dissent at discussion stage, planning stage is very good. Dissent at execution stage, typically in the military, is a very different ball game. Unfortunately, even dissent at the discussion stage is looked adversely upon. इसको हम नकारात्मक दृष्टि से देखते हैं अगर कोई भी विरोधाभास होता है जब हम किसी भी योजना का चर्चा कर रहे हैं क्योंकि बड़े को वो योजना की दिशा पूर्व निर्धारित है. That is the bigger danger, number 1 point.
Sanjay.
Just give me 30 seconds.
No, I'm going to ask you to stand down.
The 30 seconds.
As the
Just
commanding officer.
30
Because
seconds.
you're eating into his time.
The second point I wanted to make, and I forgot. So I will. Okay, sit down.
Yeah, please. Thank you for obeying. Yeah, please. Yeah.
If I may, because you mentioned General Sagat Singh,
Yeah.
and you will all know that when it came to crossing the river, just before 16th December, General Sagat wasn't given a clearance to do it. He did it none the same. So he won the round for India. You might want to talk about it. I've known him as an uncle, family friend, but I've known the son. I've known
I
the
think
family.
can we not do that? We'll
We need,
actually
no,
ask-
we need General
please,
Sagat
please,
being disobedient. Hang on.
We're running out of
hang
time.
On,
We've
hang
got
on,
enough
hang on.
examples.
Being disobedient to the direct orders given to him.
Ma'am, I think he's given enough examples. So let's have someone else ask a question. Yeah, please.
I am from Sikkim.
Yeah.
I know everything. Now, सगत सिंह साहब ने यदि ये काम नहीं किया होता
Yeah.
डिसोबीडियंस का तो नाथुला जाता, सिक्किम जाता, चिकन नेक भी जाता, नॉर्थ ईस्ट भी जाता. हाँ बांग्लादेश तक गया, नॉर्थ ईस्ट गया इंडिया का. इतना बड़ा खतरा होता है. इसलिए डिसोबीडियंस इज ए गुड थिंग फॉर अस.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, please? No comments. We don't need, thank you for that, but we'd like a question for the author. Any questions? I'm beginning to like this military thing, this keeping people in control. Anyway, I think we can move on to the last question.
Yeah, only you will be able to control everybody on this earth except your wife.
That's true. That's true.
Sorry, ma'am.
You see
I've
my-
written a book on military humor, so I crack joke once in a while.
You see, my hair is shorter than hers, yeah. So anyway, okay, so let's just end it with the one quiz question. Sorry, you have a question? Okay, last question, yeah.
नमस्ते सर, मेरा नाम नम्रता है. थोड़ा सा क्वेश्चन उससे अलग है, लेकिन आप मिलिट्री से इसलिए पूछना चाह रही हूँ. इन दिनों भारत सरकार
Can you
द्वारा
speak more clearly?
इन दिनों भारत सरकार द्वारा सीमा दर्शन योजना है कि आप बॉर्डर्स पे जाके ट्रैवलिंग कीजिए. और मैं ऐसे कई बॉर्डर्स पे जब ट्रैवल करती हूँ तो वो कहते हैं ये सुरक्षा के लिए खतरा भी हो सकता है. बहुत सारी पिक्चर्स बाहर आ जाती है. आजकल ब्लॉग्स भी आप देखिए कि जहाँ नहीं लेना है वो भी पिक्चर्स बाहर आती है. तो आपका इस पर क्या टेक है, ये होना चाहिए या नहीं? थैंक यू.
Yeah, you see, if you allow free floating photographers to go everywhere, then security issues are involved, As long as it is geographical features, it doesn't really matter because the technology of satellites and all that, you can, get pictures of anywhere else. But then when you take photographs and you make it free for all, then it becomes uncontrolled. And there is a security issue involved there. And you don't know how many people are actually going there for that purpose and what are they shooting, right?
So finally, we've got the quiz question, and Anil and I spoke about this. It's a very interesting one, and I'd request all the military men over here not to answer. It says you have to identify the military commander in the image. That's the first part of the question. And more importantly, you have to say what act is he known for in which he committed in the line of constructive disobedience. So please, can we have the image up?
Yeah, can you have the image of that
And no,
officer?
no military answers, please. Anybody who is non-military.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. Any non-military gentleman.
Yeah.
And
Or
ladies.
lady.
All ladies, yeah.
Hugh Thompson, no.
No, sir.
No. We'll have to open it up to the military in a second. Sorry? No.
No, ma'am, no, sorry, he's
Sorry.
not the one.
Anybody else? Any civilian? Yeah. Sorry?
No, sir, no.
No. No. Okay, would the military here like to take a shot? Sorry? No.
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 So I did,
You guys are as bad as the civilians, yeah. Come on.
I did a good job selecting the photograph.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Wait, anybody else? It's floor open to everyone, otherwise we'll have to keep the book, which we don't want to do.
Sorry?
Let's just even identify the officer, okay? Forget about what act he committed, that we can hear from Anil. Sorry? Yes. Who answered that? Okay.
Roman.
So, would you like to say what what was the act of disobedience that he committed? Would you like to mention, if you know it? There's a more specific one. Let's have Anil give the.
You know that so many Jews were killed by the Germany during Second World War. He's really a great commander of all times. And he was the commander of the German forces in North Africa. And they captured a lot of Allied troops, and there was one brigade of the Jews amongst those. And he had a direct order from Hitler to execute the entire 3,000 men of that brigade. He refused that order.
So we
So,
would like...
constructive disobedience, right? So there's so much value in constructive disobedience if you do it for the right cause. It eventually, of course, you know, he was executed he was given a cyanide pill because he realized that Hitler had become a liability to Germany. And about almost 3,000 officers were executed by Hitler in all, and he's one of them.
Would you like to come up and get
Yes,
the book
sir. We would like
from
to
your
have,
buddy?
this book on the stage, please. Big round of applause for sir. We'd have a quick photo op also.
Let me also take this opportunity. He is a coastman of mine. He's a sword of honor from the Indian Navy. Right. And a pilot and aviator. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Well, the session was quite thought-provoking. And at the later stages, we also got a bit emotional. As we explore, thank you, General Sengar and Ranjan Pal, for this discussion. This conversation serves as a powerful reminder that true progress often requires the courage to challenge the status quo and to act according to our deepest convictions. I would now request co-founder Brigadier Sanjay Agrawal and Reema Huja, ma'am, to felicitate
Oh, we should have let them answer, yeah. Now they're going to...
our guests.
We'll take it up.
If you give us the time, then...
No, you will give it first.
Uh,
Working in tandem.
As we conclude this enriching session,
So actually, come here. And before we conclude, thank you. Before we conclude, any other service officers here?
Army
Let's do a salute
veterans.
to them. I'm getting off.
Oh, please do come here. Yeah, come on. And,
Fortunately, we will all have relatives, but we have to honor our...
I think there's
very
a
kind of
naval
you.
officer there.
Ma'am, very kind
It's
of
not
you.
kind, sir. We owe it to all of you. Please.
And of course, you'll get to hear him tomorrow, but let me just speak a few words about...
Don't steal his thunder. Don't steal his thunder.
All right. He is a coastmate of ours. He is a Saurya Chakra winner. He's a Arjuna Award winner. He's a Khel Ratna Award winner. And he's Dronacharya Award winner.
Wow.
He's a hell of a gentleman here, gentlemen. You'll hear him tomorrow.
We have the honor of hearing him tomorrow speaking on sports leadership at the international level, at the level which he is routinely acting on.
And
Sports
Ranjan-
leadership at the international level.
Ranjan, please stay on stage because this is still your stage.
Created for Bhopal Literature Festival by Padma Shri Bhil artist Bhuri Bai, this artwork symbolizes the deep connection between nature,
Where are you?
humanity, and the environment.
On the double.
Still waters run deep.
To our remarkable speakers, thank you for your wisdom and insights. This memento honors your contributions and the lasting impact of your words.
We can't be without the ladies. Yeah, of course. 15 seconds. Behind every successful man stands a woman. But there's the other part. The further behind she is, the more successful he is. You know what's going to happen to me tomorrow? Yes, tonight, by tomorrow. very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Well done.
Thank you, dear speakers.
Thank you, sir.
We would start our next session in a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, I request our audience to please settle down.